Hello everybody and welcome to another amazing video of DIY investing. For today's video, we are going to be mapping out the price of Bitcoin and analyzing the recent breakout that we just saw. This breakout is the biggest rise in price that we have seen since all the way back in the last bull run, and this is going to be something that, in my opinion, is only just getting started when we take a look at what is happening big picture. I have a ton of charts to share with you guys that are going to perfectly map out the price of Bitcoin, and then we're also going to be finishing up this video by talking about a few different altcoins that are built on Arbitrum that are setting up to take off in a huge way. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and with that being said, let's jump right into this amazing video today. Alrighty guys, now here we are to start off today's video looking at the price of Bitcoin. Now you guys know in my last video what we were talking about was the potential of Bitcoin to drop to one more low, pretty much right around this level right here. And that's kind of what I was watching for, was that this resistance was going to hold and then we were going to ultimately fall back down. Obviously that was not the case, and Bitcoin continued to break out. And we finally broke out of this massive resistance that we've been under for so long. This is a long-term consolidation pattern. Really almost a year worth of consolidation that we've been in. 270 days that we've been going sideways, accumulating, and building a foundation. The thing I want you guys to remember is if we get out here on a bigger time frame, we hide our drawing tools, this entire consolidation right here, this entire move, this is going to be a bottom formation in the same way that this was a bottom formation back here. In the same way, if we come over here and look at Bitcoin down here, this was a bottom formation. This entire consolidation is an example of that. And what we're actually seeing in here is, once again, like I was talking to you guys about, this big inverse head and shoulder formation. And the fact of the matter is, once we see an inverse head and shoulder, the way that you would trade this pattern, we'll talk about targets as well. But the big thing here is to notice that you have this left shoulder, and then you have the head, which is obviously the deviation. This is kind of the final capitulation. And then inside of the right shoulder, what you're going to notice is oftentimes you see the most volume. That's exactly what we see here. We see way more buy volume inside of this right shoulder than what we saw over here in the left, even coming all the way down to the June sell-off that we saw. But then another big thing that you're going to notice here is oftentimes, because there's the most volume here inside the right shoulder, there's oftentimes a big breakout. And the price perfectly syncs up with this because we didn't really even see that big of a pullback here. We're on a weekly time frame, and we did see a drop all the way back down to this level, but you can see that this instantly got bought up and it turned into a big wick. And so really everything that we would need to see inside of an inverse head and shoulder played out. We saw peak volume inside the right shoulder. Inside of that, we also saw a very big breakout, which is what you'd expect if there was a lot of volume. And so now that we're actually outside of this resistance, it's important to talk about where our targets stack up, because this is what we need to know when moving forward with understanding how high can Bitcoin actually go. And so the way that you would draw an inverse head and shoulder target is you'd go from the top of the neckline. The same distance from the head to the neckline is going to be your target. So that takes us to a target of just exactly 35,000. And so 35,000 is going to be the level that I'm watching. In the short term, I do believe that we could actually retest this neckline one more time, but I think that overall we're going to be rocketing much higher than where I was initially drawing. Because if you guys remember, what I've been talking to you guys about is the fact that I was watching for 27K, basically, 27,500 as my resistance level. And really that resistance level still stands. The big thing here is the only difference is we got our sell-off much quicker and we didn't quite hit that peak inside of this high like I was thinking. I thought that if we were going to hit 27K, it would be inside of this move, we'd run up here, and then we would start, a multi-month correction like that. We didn't get them all the way up to my target, and then we corrected straight down to the 618 like I talked about. And so this whole move happened a lot faster. Now that we've seen this breakout to the upside, we've now broken out of this range. And so as it stands, as far as where the price is, we peaked up here just about 28,500. And I think that we could actually see a pullback from this range. If we come over here and we actually look at our momentum indicators being the OBV, we can see that this is technically still below resistance, right? As we've seen these three higher highs in price, all the way up in here, we've seen these three higher highs in price, yet the OBV and the momentum indicator hasn't been able to actually break out of resistance. And so what that tells me is that at least in the short term, there's a little bit of weakness in the momentum. even though we've had this strong breakout to the upside, the momentum indicators haven't been able to break out yet, which is a little bit of a warning sign to at least pay attention to, which tells me in the short term I wouldn't be surprised if we did see a pullback from this range. We could come back down and retest this neckline. But overall, I would expect that that dip would get bought up pretty quick, and then we would start the next move upwards of about 31,500. The big thing here is we do need to see this break out. Otherwise, this is just going to be a big warning sign that says that the momentum is dying out. And that's kind of what I'm seeing, at least in the short term. We did have good buy volume that came out here. We saw a nice breakout in price. We cleared outside of this 270-day accumulation range. And so if we do see a pullback back down onto this neckline, I think that that's a huge buy signal. I will personally be buying that dip because I see a lot of altcoins that are setting up in a really big way. And that tells me that most likely this is going to continue up higher. And that's kind of what the whole price action told me. When we saw such a big breakout to the upside, even though our momentum indicators haven't reset yet, we saw a massive breakout of almost a year-long range that we've been in. And so this thing on a big picture, if we're looking at this, like I stated at the earlier part of this video, this is a bottom formation right here. So we've definitely set in the new bull market. I think that that's a given at this point. We broke out of our long-term descending resistance, flipped to support, and now we're seeing such a massive breakout. Really, I think that if you were a bear, you would have been expecting that this range here at the top of our neckline would have actually held as resistance, and then we would have fell to that new low. The fact that we've already broken out once again, in my opinion, that should really confirm to all of the bears that the bull market is back in, because now that we've had this multi-month accumulation range and a bottom to a bear market cycle, now that we've broken outside of that, I think that it's a given that we're going to go up a lot higher. And this bottom is going to look exactly like if anything that we've seen in years past. I mean, the only difference here would probably be the first cycle, considering that this one was just a quick, short period of time. But nonetheless, this is just going to end up turning out to be another bottom on a big picture market cycle, kind of similar to what we saw here in 2015, or similar to what we saw here in 2018 as well. This one only lasted about a little over 100 days, 112 days to the point of the breakout. But what I find so interesting here is the fact that our current market structure looks pretty similar to what we saw at this early point of this 2018 and 2019 cycle. We accumulated sideways here for, about 3 months, and then we saw this first breakout, right? And this first breakout was just the earliest part before we saw this massive upswing in price. And we've talked a little bit about this, guys, and I think that it's important that we at least revisit this scenario, because when we were at 25K, I told you guys that I wasn't necessarily expecting that we were going to have such a big move off the lows. But what the recent breakout told me was that maybe we actually will, because if we saw anything to compare from right here, we went through roughly the same sort of consolidation here, where we went through this multi-month, technically this was just 3 months, but we went through 3 months of consolidation after a massive capitulation type move, and then the first breakout that we saw here went through kind of the same sort of fake out as far as what the price action looked. We went for higher highs, but we had these sell-offs, and they kind of deviated from this range, and it was just big choppy events to shake out all the weak hands, right? And then the price ultimately resulted into this massive breakout right here. And it reminds me a lot of the current price action that we're seeing right here. This type of PA, it looks a lot alike. That's kind of what I've been looking at. And when I was coming in here and drawing that we were topped at this point, we were about to see a correction, I figured that this correction would take a lot longer and it would build a much more consistent right shoulder for this pattern to break out. But we didn't see that, and it just kind of went down here and temporarily pierced the 618 and then immediately expanded to the upside to break out of this range. And so now that it stands, what that told me was that the market's much more bullish. There's a reason why we had such a big breakout. There's a lot more buy support than what I was initially anticipating. And so now that we're outside of this resistance, even if we see a pullback right here to retest it, I think that no matter what, this pullback would act as a spring and we would immediately start breaking up to the upside. And so if our last cycle could compare anything, I think that the big comparison here would at least be to consider the fact that we could have a much bigger breakout to the upside, and that's kind of what this breakout told me. If we are going to see the same type of breakout, technically where we would be is right here, and then we would see this big move to the upside. And so if this thing went all the way to the 618, we could technically come back and make a same sort of a breakout. And if that was the case, you know, the 618 is going to be taking us all the way up here to about $48,500. And so I just want you guys to be aware of that scenario if it does present itself, not to be caught off guard, because I was somebody who was caught off guard to the one in 2019. And because of that, I missed out on being able to just pretty much put all my cash in to the market and hold the majority of the move. And so because of that, if you're watching the market now, I would say that because we're at the very beginning of the new cycle, I mean, technically, if we come over here to the low point, from where we're at, you know, we're only 130 days into this new bull market. And so buying here for the long term without worrying about short-term price, in my opinion, this is really the last moment that you can do that. Because once we're looking at, you know, later into the end of this year to even next year in 2024, the market's probably going to be upwards of this midway range. Around the 618, maybe around the 382, somewhere up in this area. And that's kind of what I would expect if you're somebody that's waiting until some part of next year. And that's kind of the way that all the cycles have started. You know, if we're looking at the bull markets, from the bottom of the bear market to the point where we see a massive breakout, you're looking at anywhere from about 550 days to about 650 days. And that was the way that we saw it kind of play out in the last cycle. If we come over here and take a look at what's happening or what happened back in 2015, we can see that from the bottom of the cycle to the point we started breaking out was pretty much around that same point in time, around 650. This one was a little bit longer than that, probably about 750 days. But I mean, as a rule, that's kind of how long it's going to take before we start to create any sort of major foundation. But the big thing to keep in mind is the fact that I would not miss out on the opportunity of accumulating this early into the cycle. Because if we're sitting here and this is the early point of the breakout and we make a move upwards of the 382, the 0.5 or something like that, and then we pull back down, most likely we're going to be pulling back down to the range that we're pretty much at right now, if that's even what ends up happening. And so if that's the case, buying right now and holding just for the long term of the trend, even though the price is breaking out, I don't think that it's necessarily the worst thing in the world. The thing is you have to understand that you've already missed out on the chance of buying the bottom. You have to understand where your perspective is. If you're holding for the long term of a trend, I always say that with us being in the early part of the cycle, not to worry so much about what the short-term price is, because the short-term price is going to make you end up just getting greedy or getting too worked up about what the PA is doing, and then you're going to not end up getting in at all, or waiting too long and FOMOing in at a high. And so I would say that with this being at the very first move of the new bull trend, I don't think that it's the worst time in the world to be buying, even if it's kind of technically FOMOing in on the shorter time frames. But the thing to remember here is now that we've stitched in this multi-month bottom formation and we're seeing the breakout from that, chances are we're going to see a bigger move to the upside than a lot of people are leading to believe. Now, with all that kind of coinciding with each other, if we do see a move like 2019, I don't think it's a bad idea to be buying at this level. And so that's what I'm doing, in my opinion. That's kind of the way I'm watching the market. I've already accumulated on these dips, so if we get another sell-off back to the neckline, I'm going to jump back in. But that's at least what I'm watching for with Bitcoin in the short term. Now, let's actually jump into some of these altcoins that I had to share with you guys, because these are going to be setting up in big ways that are profitable, that I think everybody should be paying attention for moving forward from here. Now, the altcoin that we're going to be talking about today is going to be Vela. Vela is the one that we've been talking a lot about today, and the reason is because we now know that the Arbitrum airdrop is going to be happening on the 23rd of this month. If you were somebody that missed out on that airdrop, it's going to be a big one, but there's plenty more airdrops coming out, and this is going to be the next major one that I'm watching for. If you guys want to be able to get access to an airdrop, this is a good one to do. All you have to do is go and trade on their exchange. The more trading volume you have, the more money that you're going to get in their airdrop. And so if you guys want to know how I did it, I went over to their exchange, and all I did was deposit $3,000 worth of USDC, and you don't even have to do that much yourself. Could just be 100, could be 500. I don't know what you guys are working with. But I put $3,000, and then I would just open up a 20x leverage position, open it with $1,000 in the position, and then I would basically close the trade pretty soon after it opened. And I might take a small loss in doing that. I might take a small profit in doing that, but I really wasn't worried much about that. The big focus here is accumulating volume on their exchange, because the more volume you have, the more money you're going to be able to get in the airdrop. And so I don't know how big the airdrop is going to be, but I know that this crypto itself, I'm holding for the long term. I'm really bullish on Vela. I think it's going to take off in a big way, and me and my group have been accumulating it for the last month or so at this point. And so if you're looking at this and you want access to an airdrop, something that looks like it's going to take off in price, even if you don't get access to the airdrop, this thing is still looking really bullish. If we can get outside this descending resistance, this thing's going to break out in a big way. We've already done everything that we needed to see as the early part. We finished a one wave cycle. We finished our ABC correction back down. We bounced perfectly off that 618. Now that we're at this resistance, if we see any pullback, I'm going to buy more. If we saw a pullback back down to like $4.30, I would personally be buying more. If we break out at this level, I'm still just holding what I bought down here at this green box. And so if you guys want to be able to get access, I'm going to link this in the description for you guys to go and sign up on their exchange. All you have to do is trade around. More trade volume you have, the more money you're going to get access to the airdrop. Links are going to be provided for you in the description to go ahead and actually participate. Now, next up on today's list is going to be Plutus. Plutus DAO is one of those Arbitrum altcoins that I think is going to take off in a big way, and we're already pretty much seeing that. Now, if you guys were watching my videos, I talked about this one over in this period over here, right when we were making this first major breakout on the way up. And so some of you guys actually bought this. I know that you guys did because I've heard the comments. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what's going on today. Now, guys, once again, if you guys see any of these altcoins that I'm talking about in today's video, and you want to be able to get access to when I talk about them first, when I post the entries of when I bought, links are in the description to go ahead and sign up on my signals. You're going to be able to get lifetime access on my Discord server in a private group where I post all those trades. And this is one of those that we bought back into. Now, I've been compounding this one because I really do believe in it for the long term. One of those that I'm going to be holding for the long term, especially now that we got this dip. What we recently just saw here, we saw our first 5-wave cycle. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Or you could look at this as being wave 3 and wave 4. There's a couple different ways. Either way, we finished our first 5-wave cycle. And then what we saw to the downside was our first A, B, and then a C wave. And then that came pretty close to the 786 to the 618 region. This one actually tagged perfectly off the 786. And so this is one of those that I ended up buying. I bought this one right below the 618 here at about 38 to 39 cents, somewhere right around that level. And so this is one that I've compounded because I took my profits over here. Now that I'm holding what I've bought and just going to hold it for the long term because I really do think that this is going to take off in a big way. Now, I know a lot of you guys actually end up holding this one because I've heard the comments about it. And so if you bought over here in my last video, it's still pretty close to where I just recently got back in at. And so now that we're sitting at these all-time highs, I wouldn't be surprised to see a pullback here. We've had a big move off of these lows. And so if we saw a pullback, a move back down to the top of this B wave wouldn't surprise me at all. And that really goes for all of these altcoins. Vela in here, if we end up seeing the market pull back, Vela pulls back at this resistance, a sell-off back down to this level around $4.30 to 40 cents would be a good opportunity to get back in, and I actually would be doing that myself. If we see Plutus pull back down to this level, that would be an opportunity to get back into the market, and it really is all centered around with what happens with Bitcoin. If Bitcoin in the short term pulls back, all of the markets are going to pull back as well, and it wouldn't be a bad opportunity to at least be waiting for something like that. Like I stated with the earlier part of this video, Bitcoin and the momentum indicators haven't broken out yet, which could be an early warning sign. Now, the last one on today's video is one that I've been watching since all the way back down over in here when it was worth a little over $100,000 in total market cap. And this is one that I think is going to have a pretty solid cycle coming up. Now, at least in the short term, I wouldn't be buying this. It looks like we're about to finish 5 waves up, and this 5 wave could overextend all the way up to the top of this B wave. So I don't know exactly how high it's going to go in the short term, but it's still sitting only at about $1 million in total market cap. So it's still a micro cap crypto. But these guys have lots of token burns. I think that with that being paired with this being such a low market cap, we're going to see the price move up in a big way. And even though we're seeing our first 5 wave impulse, I would wait for a correction here. But with this one correcting, we could see it come all the way back down to the bottom of this A wave. And if we do that, sitting at 40 cents, honestly, I would be looking to buy back in for myself personally. I only bought back in with a smaller amount over here, and when I bought back in, it wasn't the amount that I really wish I could have put into the market. And so either way, I think that this is a good one nonetheless. With it being at a microcap position, with it being at a point where there's a lot of burning that's happening in the token price can go up significantly. And with this one itself also being one that offers a great return for you to be able to earn interest on, I'm actually earning over 750% APR by farming this with USDC. come over here and do the exact same thing you can. The APR has actually gone even higher. It's currently up to 803%. And so this is one that I've been earning a good amount on, and I just threw all of what I bought into this position to go ahead and farm with it. Because it wasn't like some giant amount. And so this is one that I'm going to be sitting on farming. With it being such a low cap position and having these type of returns, I honestly don't understand how it's not going to have another cycle. And so with this thing having a new cycle, during any correction, I'm going to be buying this dip because I think it's going to get bought up in a big way. And so this is just the first impulse that we've ever seen. If we come over here to a log scale, we can see that this was just the first 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 wave. We had an extended fifth. ABC correction back down. And so this is the first new impulse of our new cycle. Whenever we do see a correction from that point, like I stated, always the 618 is just the place you're going to target. Assuming we run all the way up to this B wave, which I don't know if we're going to do it. But the 618 would be right here perfectly onto support of wave A. And so that would be the 618. We could come back down to the 786. Would just be a greater buying opportunity. And so this is one of those that I'm watching. I think that this thing's going to perform very well long term. And so if you guys do want to actually go ahead and sign up on this exchange, it's just a decentralized exchange like Uniswap. It's called Oreo Swap. And so with this one being the native token of the swap itself, all the transactions that are being done are ultimately burning Oreo, with there being an opportunity to earn a huge amount of yield. I don't understand how this one isn't just going to take off in a big way. And with it only being at $1 million in total market cap, it really does have a lot of upside potential. So if you guys want to be able to farm this, you guys want to be able to go ahead and at least buy it, links are in the description to go ahead and check it out on their exchange. Like I stated at the earlier part of this video, if you guys want to follow all the trades that I take, if you guys want to be able to get access to all of these, the first time me and my group bought this one, it was all the way back down in here at a little over 6 cents. And so it ended up peaking at over 20x. We ended up selling this at around 750% profit. And so this is one that, you know, made a great amount of returns. I've already bought back in, and I think that this is going to take off in a big way. When the dip comes, I want to buy back in as well. And so if you guys want to be able to know exactly when I'm doing all of that stuff, links are in the description. Go ahead and sign up for my Signal service. I appreciate you guys so much. I look forward to seeing everybody that's able to profit off this cycle, because like I've stated in all of these earlier ones, these are all markets that are going to take off in a huge way. Even if the market price has gone up at the short term from where I entered, these are still markets that are going to be going up significantly higher over a multi-year basis. And all of the ones I'm sharing with you guys today have at least strong fundamentals that have a reason for why they're going to do good. And I think that with Vela specifically being the first one on today's list, go at least trade around on their exchange, because then you're going to go ahead and get access to their airdrop. That's free money just lying around for anybody to pick it up. So once again, links are in the description for all of this stuff. Details on how I do all of this stuff are going to be provided in my signals. Links are in the description for that. Thank you guys so much. And with that being said, I'll catch you in the next one. As always, peace out.